Today on Beyond the Wrench, we're honored to be joined by Renee Crisler, an entrepreneur and advocate whose work is rooted in purpose and impact. After losing her son in a tragic motorcycle accident, Renee turned heartbreak into hope by founding the Jumpstart Fund, a foundation focused on exposing teens to hands-on career paths beyond the traditional college route, including the skilled trades. Renee joins us today to share her personal journey and how she's helping young people find direction, opportunity, and meaningful work. Renee, welcome to Beyond the Wrench.
Thank you. I'm really honored and privileged that you're taking time to talk to me. So thank you.
Well, I'm truly honored to have you on. As we talked in our intro call, you can't help but walk away from a conversation with you, but being inspired, right? And really everything that you've done to turn what could be perceived as a negative into a really, really positive thing was so powerful to me. And, after we initially had our talk, I was just so floored by you and everything that you're doing. So today's conversation, I've had kind of circled on the calendar as one that I'm really, really looking forward to because you're doing some incredible things.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot, really. It does. I appreciate that.
So your path didn't come maybe the traditional way into our industry or into the skilled trades as to most that come on the show. And so I do want to, before we get into all of the things about what you're doing, the reason why we're having you on the show, I do want to talk about your upbringing because it is different than most that we talk to. What led you to this point in your career? I mean, you've had some really, really cool things going on.
So it's funny that you say I'm not your typical, but I did grow up with three brothers. One happens to be a diesel mechanic.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
One's a helicopter pilot, and one is still working our family farm in Kansas. And so, funny enough, I was around cars a lot. My next oldest brother actually used to drag race his cars and tweak cars. And on occasion, I would be in the vehicle or I was on the street watching for traffic to make sure it was all clear. But I was also the annoying little sister, so they didn't really teach me a lot. I tried to weld when I was younger and I was really terrible at it. And they just said, we're done with you. You can't learn this. Go back to cleaning the house and doing dishes or whatever. And so I grew up in Kansas on a small farm with three brothers and was around cars a lot. My dad had a really cool Corvette that he sold to buy our farm, and we all talk about how we'd love to get that Corvette back someday.
Oh, wow.
So cars have kind of been a part of my upbringing. I just don't know the mechanics as well as maybe I should because of being in that upbringing. So yeah, but my background, my education, I did go the traditional college route, and I do have a master's in marketing and business. And whenever Reilly entered into our home as a young toddler, he was obsessed with cars and airplanes from like age 2, probably. Since he could talk, he would talk about seeing planes and the smoke coming out of them and tailpipes and semis and cars when he was teeny. And so I just knew it was kind of going to come full circle. I was going to have somehow I was going to be thrown into automotive. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Totally.
Well, it sounds, I think a nice step here. And it's really cool to hear your background because what you've been able to do when we talk about the start of the Jumpstart Fund, right, is use maybe some of your background and the things that you grew up knowing, you putting that MBA to work. If anybody gets a chance to go check out the website, phenomenal work, very good branding, looks great. But I do want to talk about the purpose and really kind of how this fund originated. You mentioned Reilly, and Reilly's at the core of this story, and something where as our listeners kind of take this in, I think you'll see Reilly in a lot of you, right? Like there's just, as I was hearing about Reilly's interests, I couldn't help but think about myself as a young person. And so tell us a little bit about Reilly and kind of just everything that got going with the Jumpstart Fund.
Sure. So Reilly was incredibly intelligent. I knew I was in trouble when in seventh grade he was in a math class that I couldn't help him with anymore, because he was triple advanced, and it was great. But as parents, I don't know if that's a but when you're parents of a kiddo who's incredibly intelligent, we were very career college focused. And I think that was our first misstep. I don't know if it was necessarily a mistake because you only know what you know. And this was new to us as parents. And so he went into high school, triple advanced as a freshman. He was top of his class, just really an intelligent person in general, and very driven. Like we talk a lot to our kids about, we don't want you to work for someone else, be your own boss. We talk about that a lot when they're young. And so for us, we thought Reilly can go to college, start his own business, and he'll be uber successful. Like he'll do great things. And so we told him his job was to get good grades. Like that was a huge emphasis in our home for him, because he was very capable, and we just thought it was the natural pathway for him to be successful. And so going into his sophomore year, after his first semester, his grades started to tank. And I mean, really tank. He was getting D's and F's. And we thought, we didn't know what to think, quite honestly. We were a little lost. And after his first semester of his sophomore year, we decided to part-time homeschool him because he was struggling, and we were struggling as parents. And so he found a job at a cabinet shop and would take his core classes at school. And then we would do a lot of his electives through his homeschooling program, which was his job. And he loved it. It was, I can't say I saw a true 180 in him, but the way he would speak to his coworkers and his boss, I was like, okay, we're doing something right. I mean, he would work hard. His boss really loved him. He showed up on, I mean, I had to drive him at that time because he was only 15.
He didn't have an option then. He was showing up on time.
Correct. But he wanted to, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't like I was pulling teeth. I wasn't like, Reilly, come on, let's go. You're going to be late. He was waiting and ready to go. And so that was really inspiring for us as parents, thinking that, okay, we're on the right track. This is something that resonates with him. And so he worked that whole summer before going into his junior year. And then he asked, because he wasn't quite sure what his pathway was, but he wanted to be in school more, which was a shock for us. And so we put him back into school full time. And then he would work at the cabinet shop on Saturdays. And that was probably a mistake, just because he got into a lot of trouble. I think he still felt the pressure of mom and dad want me to go to college, but I'm going to show them I'm not going to college. I'm going to have some questionable friendships, make some very questionable choices. And again, we were kind of back to square one. And then a really good friend of mine suggested Reilly check into aviation, and his son was on the pathway to become a commercial airline pilot. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a great idea. Reilly loves airplanes. He loves fast cars. Okay, let's explore this. And so I enrolled him in an aviation program at Springs Aviation. He agreed. I didn't have to convince him. And he was super excited about it. And again, I'd like to say there was a total 180, but it was definitely baby steps. So he would have to be drug tested, which was huge for us as parents because he needed that. I mean, this is a funny story, and you can take this for what it's worth. But one night I was suspicious that maybe he, was regressing. And I said, get in the car. We're going to go buy a drug test. And he got in the car with me. There was no pushback or anything. And he passed it. But I don't know what it was. It was some kind of mom something.
Intuition type of thing.
I just thought maybe he needs to know that we're still checking in. And he passed. He didn't pass it with flying colors, but he passed it enough to where he could stay in the program. And so I was like, sweet, this is good. We're making progress. And I would say that was a pivotal moment, because I think he started to believe that we were in it for him and not for ourselves or for college or whatever he might have been thinking at that time. And so after his junior year, he went back to work in the summer at the cabinet shop, pretty much full time. And it was great. It was good. And then going into his senior year, he had a buddy that had a sport bike, and he asked us if he could get a sport bike. So of course our answer was no. I mean, you don't have a sport bike at 17 at that time and drive the speed limit. We knew. I mean, I had been around motorcycles and fast cars my whole life. In college, I remember being on the back of a sport bike with friends, and knowing his personality, because he was someone that pushed the limits and he was very determined to experience life his own way. He didn't want someone to tell him, blah, blah, blah. So we told him no, but he got it anyway. And the way that we found out he got his bike is because he'd been hiding it at a park, kind of in the trees, about 2 or 3 miles away from our house. And one day he called his sister and said, "Hey, I need help." He sent me a text and said, "Mom, I need Ellie." And that's our oldest daughter and his oldest sister. And I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I can't talk right now." And of course, to me, I thought, crap, he wrecked his bike or something happened, because again, mother intuition. I'm like, does he have a bike? What's going on? Of course, worst case scenario, I thought he was in an accident of some sort. Well, an hour later, I see him being towed behind our daughter's car on his sport bike. And that's why, I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to stay on a bike when you're going 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's actually takes some talent right there.
Yes. And so watching it was really hilarious, quite obviously. But again, I was texting him, calling him, and he kept saying, "Mom, quit trying to talk to me. I can't talk right now." And so I was like, worst case scenario, what's going on? What's happening? And so he pulls in, and he's had I don't know what was wrong with the bike. I really don't remember. But again, that was a turning point for us, because, and that is just a reflection of his personality too. When he was determined to do something, he was doing it. Like, there was quite honestly no stopping him. And we thought, okay, he's going to have a bike. How can we make this livable for everybody? Like, how can I sleep at night? How can we somewhat ensure his safety? So we just had some conversations about rules, and I will say he was really great. He would leave at about 9 o'clock at night, give us a great big hug, say, "Well, I'll see you later. I'll be home at 12." And he would be home at 12. I mean, honestly, for like the first time in his high school experience with him, because he used to sneak out and come home at like 6 in the morning. And that's a whole nother story how we found that out. But this was the first time where I really felt like he's going to be home at midnight. He's going to be true to his word, because I think we were giving him some grace. And so that allowed him to kind of be himself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so that was good. He bought a bike. He flipped it, bought another bike. He wanted to figure out how to make money and pay they could pay for themselves. I mean, his first bike was small. I think it was a 700 maybe. The last bike, his third bike, was huge. We said it was Satan's bike. It was a 1200 Mitsubishi. It was so fast, so big. Like, no one should ever be on a bike that fast. But that was his third or fourth bike. So he had flipped several, and he used his own money, to buy them and kind of upgrade. And so, yeah.
But you see that maybe entrepreneurial spirit there too, right? Of like wanting to, and something that was maybe passed down from you, in that you are seeing the want to maybe turn that into a business, or to figure out a way to make money off of it, or, whatever, turning your passion into something that is something you can do something with. I think that's pretty cool.
I think so too. And I think that's just a reflection of him again, is that he was determined, and he wanted to be uber successful in whatever it was. One of his favorite F1 drivers was Ayrton Senna. And we actually are using a quote of Ayrton Senna's on his gravestone, and it talks about whatever you do in life. And he goes, and I'm not talking about just being an F1 driver. You will be successful with your faith in God. And Reilly, I'm not going to say that his faith drove him to success, but he was very, very driven to find whatever it is that God wanted him to be successful at it. And so I think that was a definite reflection of his determination to be successful, and B, he just wanted to, this is his hands-on part of him, right? Like, he wanted to experience life hands-on. He wanted to do it himself. He wanted to feel and touch it. We could tell him something was dangerous all day long, but he wanted to learn it for himself. For sure. I
love that his favorite driver was Senna. That is really cool. And then the quote with the faith-based piece of that, I think is incredible. And then just you talk about the intelligence level, and this is something that it sounded like you almost had to open your mind to or shift your thinking in, and that maybe the traditional route wasn't going to be the avenue that he was going to go down, but you still knew that he was really, really intelligent, and maybe just using that intelligence in a different way. And it's hard for a lot of parents, I think, to come to terms with that, right? Because I think a lot of times it you always want what's best for your kids, right? And you had talked about that part of him just starting to understand that his parents were in it for him as well. Like it wasn't just to tell their friends that he's going to college, or it's you're wanting what's best for him. And then as you kind of start to see this, I've got a lot of friends that are that way, right? Where and myself included, I was not what I would call a good student, not even close.
Not because you weren't capable, you just chose not to be a good student.
Well, and it is one of those things where I think when you find what you're passionate about, and that whatever, everybody's different, right? And I think that's the more you can keep an open mind to that and really start to see how talented some of these kids are that maybe don't have that desire to be book smart, or, and I shouldn't even say book smart, but more you weren't going to find me looking through trigonometry homework, right? Like it wasn't because I didn't want to get smarter or be smarter. It was because my interest lied in something different. And I wanted to, similar to Reilly, be working on something or doing something with my hands versus reading. And so I think I'd be interested to kind of get your take there in terms of, as you're watching his progression, was that something that at first was kind of a concern, or were you like, hey, you know what? He's just, his skill set, we know he's smart, but his skill set, he's going to apply it to something differently, and we have to be okay with that.
That's exactly the pivot that we made. Was we have to be okay with whatever path he chooses. And I think that he didn't. So unfortunately, in our community and in our area of the world, it's college, 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 college.
Right.
There's not a lot. As parents, we had no idea where he could go as an intelligent, hands-on, kind of mechanical minded individual, right? We didn't know anything about CTE classes. We didn't know about concurrent enrollment. Really, it was a blessing that he even was able to work at the cabinet shop. And I found that out, that opportunity just landed in my lap because a friend of ours was a builder and it was his cabinet shop that he used, right? And I just asked him, I'm like, hey, do you think Reilly could get a job working at Dale's shop? And he's like, ask him, here's his number, And so that was just, I don't know, divine intervention is all I can say.
It's kind of a blessing because you can see him start to work with his hands a little bit and see that, hey, you know what, this intelligence transfers pretty nicely.
Yeah. And you see it, and you can see a change in their countenance, meaning it wasn't a significant shift then. I will say when he started working at Tire World, he was almost a different person. He felt value, he felt worth, he had his own tools. They were cheap, crappy tools, right? But he bought them. He took great care of them. I think someone even in the shop gave him a hand tool that we still have. And it was like really cherished to him because I think it just gave him independence and feeling of self-worth. And in our community, there's not a lot of opportunity shared outside of college. It's no fault of anybody, but our school system is designed to support students to go to college in general. It's super easy to walk into a counselor office and say, here's my top 5 universities, help me get one. But if you go in and you say, here's my top 5 jobs, I want to be an elevator mechanic or an auto technician or whatever it might be, the counselors don't know what to do. They're like, well, you could take our construction CTE class. Let me look at your schedule. And then, does it fit in your schedule? I don't know. How can we get you in that class? It might be tricky. Yeah, sorry, you're going to have to stay in pre-calc or whatever it might be. And so that is kind of a flaw in the system. And in our part of the world. Now, don't get me wrong. I have definitely worked with some districts where it is substantially different, where you can walk into a counselor's office and they say, okay, what do you need? How can we fix your schedule? to make it so you can be in that construction class or get into the auto technician class, right? But that was very foreign to us. And I'm still learning about it here within our own district. And I cannot tell you the number of parents I have spoken with when they talk about what we do and how we do it in Reilly's experience. They are blown away that CTE classes even exist. And so that has been an immense challenge, but also very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah. And so I had a very similar experience there as well. Right. And I remember going into our school counselor's office when I was in high school many moons ago now, and having that conversation and coming out of the conversation, where you're talking about what you're going to do after school. And this was maybe like, I was probably a sophomore in high school or something like that. And I just wanted to work on cars. And I remember going into that conversation and coming out thinking like, this guy could care less about me because I am not going the traditional career route or the traditional school route. And so, I think that perception is changing a little bit just from my talks with school counselors and with educators and even just general perception from parents, right? Because I do think that's important that they start to understand that there are changing technologies, there's changing job demands. I mean, I was just reading through the America's Talent Strategy report and kind of some of the fear of what AI is doing to a lot of jobs. And, some of those jobs that in the past, had you gone the college route and really gone, kind of through your steps would make total logical sense. Well, now that's a little hairy, right? You don't know exactly what jobs are going to be available in 5 years down the road, maybe even 2 years down the road. I've got an 8-year-old son. And I'm like, I have no idea what the job market's going to look like when you're ready to graduate and go out. So, I think people are starting to look at that a little differently. I think career counselors are starting to take that a little bit more seriously. At least that's my hope. But similar to everything that you're talking about with Reilly, I had the same experience and really could get the sense even from my parents that at times, like if they're talking to their friends, like they're like, oh yeah, he's not going to go to college. He's going to go to a tech school. And, it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, okay, I feel like I could do pretty well at this stuff, but there's always this, like, maybe you don't feel like your parents are as proud, or you don't feel like the general public is looking at it from the sense of like, yeah, my kid is going to go learn this skilled trade and have skills that are very, very helpful to a lot of people. And I know I'm not alone. I'm sure Reilly didn't feel like he was alone in that. There's some cool stuff that you can do with your hands. There's some things that are truly skills that you can learn that you'll be able to apply for a long time. So he wasn't alone there. I can tell you that.
No, I don't think he was alone either. And I think that is also another reason he felt more value and self-worth when he did work at Tire World as he was just a lube tech. I mean, but every once in a while he'd get pulled into a cool job, right? And we always knew because he'd come home super stoked and excited and be like, oh my gosh, we overhauled the engine on, or actually that would be cool. But when someone pulled in with a really cool fast car and he got to drive it on and off, that was really exciting for him. Yeah, it just made his day. We could tell for sure. But I think that he found people similar to him. And I think it made him realize that I'm not alone, right? Like there are other guys, 18, 19 years old, just like me, that are trying to figure this out. And they are here too. And I think he also knew that that was just a stepping stone. I mean, we would talk to him about it. We're like, you've got to get the fundamentals, the basics, because he had no CTE, no, anything in high school. So he was learning it based on what he did with his bikes, right? And then what he was learning on a very basic level at Tire World. But I think that when you're around like people and you see people that think and kind of have vision similar to your own, it helps you believe in yourself.
If you're an automotive, diesel, or collision instructor, or an educator helping students explore these careers, this is for you. Building relationships with local shops takes time, and knowing who's willing to help isn't always clear. ASC Connects, in partnership with WrenchWay, brings schools and industry together on one easy online platform at no cost for schools. At the heart of ASC Connects is School Assist, the online resource that lets you post exactly what your program needs. From guest speakers, shop tours, tools, advisory committee members, career fair participants, and even student job opportunities, shops can see your requests and respond directly to you. You'll also get access to instructor-focused resources, webinars, and templates designed to save time and strengthen industry partnerships. Even if your school doesn't have a formal auto or diesel program, you can still participate to help connect interested students with real-world opportunities. ASC Connects is free for schools. Get started at wrenchway.com/solutions/schools or use the link in the show notes. What was it about Tire World that got him to go that route, right? He's going from the cabinet shop to Tire World?
Yes. Yep. It was location. I didn't even have a connection there. I think maybe one of his buddies that he met with his motorcycle gang knew somebody there, is actually, if I remember right. And they said, "Hey, I think they're hiring." And he went and applied and they hired him on the spot. And that was back when you could walk in with a resume and just show up and say, "Hey, I want a job here and here's my resume." And I feel like he started working like 2 days after he walked into the shop. And so yeah, so that was.
Did he get the sense? Did you get the sense he was learning some stuff when he was there, and maybe trying to lean into his passion a little bit?
I think most definitely he was definitely learning stuff, because he would even come home and take more parts off of his bikes than he would normally. And so to me, that was a reflection of him being a little more confident in the mechanical side. And also, I think he started to realize he could call one of my brothers anytime and be like, "Hey, I don't know what I just did, but can you talk me through this?" And they were always super chill about talking him through mistakes, I guess.
Well, it sounds like he was genuinely curious, right? And I think that a lot of people that are really successful in the skilled trades are the curious ones that aren't afraid to tinker, that aren't afraid to tear something apart and put it back together. And especially like him, something he's passionate about, if he can figure out ways to make it work better or do what he wants performance-wise with there's so many cool things to do that make the experience more enjoyable, right? And so I see that in a lot of the best, is they are just really curious, and maybe that's not even just the skilled trades. I think I've seen that a lot even with our staff or with friends of mine that are very successful, just curious and want to figure things out and maybe go through. And I know even in my own experience, that helps me in my head kind of piece things together if I'm able to tear into something that I'm not overly familiar with, or if it's something in the business world, dive into something that I'm not overly comfortable doing and just trying to kind of just learn it and like figure it out. And I think you learn so many lessons as a result of that.
I think so too. And I think also you're willing to take a chance. You're a little bit you're not afraid of some risk. I mean, even thinking about you and your career path, I'm sure even though it was a 33-year-old repair shop, there's still risk involved with buying it, taking it over. And Reilly definitely was pretty fearless. And so I think for him, and I think that you're right, that an entrepreneur has to have almost a sense of fearlessness. If you think about some of the most successful entrepreneurs that we know in this lifetime, they took big risks. They were very curious and they weren't afraid to act on that curiosity. Like, I feel like I'm a somewhat curious person, but I'm a little timid, especially at this age in life, to do anything with that curiosity besides what's safe, right? Like in my little box of safety. But if you're willing to go outside of that comfort zone, take some chances, I think that leads to great success, or can lead to great success also.
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads us into really what you're doing with Jumpstart. Unfortunately, Reilly lost his life in a motorcycle accident. It's so hard for me to even talk about this because you see such a good kid, and to have this happen is just something that I can't even imagine what you and your family went through with this. And to take something that he, in his short time on this earth, really kind of left behind as a legacy is something that is really powerful. I don't know how to put this into words. It's very, very few times for those that know me am I at a loss for words. But as I kept digging into everything you're doing here, this was one that really touched me. I can't tell you how much or what an impact Reilly's having on everybody, and the fact that you're driving this home is such a, it's hard to put into words for me in terms of what you're doing with his legacy, and really trying to turn some of his passion and his curiosity into something that's going to drive a lot of other kids that are in similar situations into a better position. So I want to talk a little bit about this, right? And how did you take something that was so difficult and really make it into a positive? And I don't even know if I've got a better way to word that question. It's a tough one for me to ask, but to go through something like you did, and to really start to shift your thinking into how do we make this a positive. Walk me through your mindset here, and really how one thing led to another.
So I think initially we had no idea what we were going to do, right? We had a lot of community support, as in donations, like financial support. And my husband and I talked about what to do with that money. We thought we have a substantial amount of money here. Let's set up a scholarship. And that didn't seem to fit, like a one and done scholar, or even, 5 years over. And plus a scholarship for what? Are we
Yeah.
scholarshiping college students, which is fine. I'm
It'd be
not,
the opposite of what Reilly was
it
looking for,
wasn't
right?
really his, yeah, it wasn't really Reilly. And so I met it's just amazing how like divine intervention. We went to a close friend of ours invited us to an Air Force game in October. Reilly's accident was in August, and she was close, like she was a second mom to Reilly. So she needed us as much as we needed her. Um, anyway, so we went to this Air Force game, and her daughter was a cheerleader. And my friend introduced me to someone in Missouri who was incredibly successful at apprenticeship. And she said, Renee, you need to meet my friend, Cynthia. She does apprenticeship. I think that there's something there for you to do related to apprenticeship. And I had the stereotypical mindset about apprenticeship. I was like, oh, okay, it's, construction, plumbing, electrical, whatever that might be. And so, but I was more than happy to, meet with her and talk with her. And so we met, we talked, we hit it off. We're both old college basketball players, so we had a lot of cool things that we had in common, and that we could talk about. And then we talked about Reilly, and she said, Renee, I can promise you that if you work in apprenticeship, you will find the Reillys of the world.
Wow. Wow. That I I've got chills when you just said that. That is
Yeah.
so on point as well, right? There are so many Reillys out there that go maybe untapped, or like just they don't have the opportunities to showcase what they are truly talented with. The fact that that was said is so powerful.
I felt the same way. It was, yeah, it was powerful and right. I just knew that it was right for what I wanted to do. And so we set up a registered apprenticeship program and started small. I was working in the local district because I wanted to work in Reilly's world, right? I wanted to work at his school with his friends and our community here. And so I started to bring industry leaders, as in I bring business owners into the classroom, like successful business owners that had amazing stories too. One of my favorite people to bring into the classroom was one of those kids that sat back in the corner, felt like no one gave a crap about him, and he didn't know what the heck he was going to do. So he tried college, quit college, came back home and started building cabinets out of his garage, out of his dad's garage. And now he owns a company that ships pivot doors across the world. And he's uber successful. He's amazing. And Reilly adored him too. So I was like, this is perfect because he has a lot of cool cars. And it wasn't just because he had cool cars. It's not just because he has cool cars. But he's just a great guy, and we would bring him into the classroom. I had another friend in IT that was from the Air Force, and he knew apprenticeship. He loved talking about apprenticeship. He would come into the classroom. So I would just bring different people I knew and people that people told me that I should talk to and ask them to come into the classroom. And honestly, kids would line up to talk to these industry partners, friends after their presentation because they thought, oh, this is different. Like these guys have all taken pathways that aren't just college right after high school. Don't get me wrong. Some was military, then college, then whatever it might've been, or some was straight to, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to take a chance and start my own business. So kids were hungry to speak with these industry leaders. They loved it. And so we placed a couple students in, it's called IT generalist apprenticeships. And that was great. One of them, she's 20 years old, works as top clearance and with the DOD, and she makes great money and she's happy. She loves, I mean, of course it's still a job sometimes for her, but she loves where she's at in life, right? Yeah. She didn't go to college. She doesn't have debt. She's doing probably the same job she would have done after 4 years of college. Yeah. And so it was great. But I was kind of not taking it to scale. You know, I had 4 or 5 in that first year. I maybe placed 8 students in construction, IT. But I just felt like I could do more. And a friend of mine was like, Renee, the only reason Jumpstarts isn't getting big is because of you. You have to get out of your comfort zone and get off this pedestal of I'm only going to work with your local district and reach out to some of the other school districts. And so that's what I did. And when I started working with, it's called Falcon District 49, things just snowballed. They were super welcoming to the idea of let's get more students out there. Let's get industry more involved. How do we do it? What is your vision? And we came up with Draft Day, and the Draft Day idea started very small and personal. But our very first draft day, we had maybe a dozen industry partners, but we placed 12 kids out of like 25 into jobs or an apprenticeship, or not even internships at that time. It was there were a few internships, but right away, people were hungry for what we wanted to do. The students were hungry, education was hungry, and industry was hungry. And so again, I thought, okay, we're on to something. Now, how do I keep growing it and make it bigger? So we did a couple other pilots and we learned a lot of the ways that we shouldn't do it. And then by our 4th draft day, we decided to do it just industry specific with automotive. And we had a great partnership from one of the dealerships. And they helped me understand the mindset of kind of how these guys think and operate and what it takes to get them to do stuff, and to buy in. Like, how do you build credibility and how do you get them to buy in? So it was work, but in a good way, right? Yeah. And so we did an automotive draft day, and we had 8 dealerships come, which for us, that was a good number.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I felt like that was pretty good. And we had over 40 students. We had about 80 students sign up, but we narrowed it down to about 40 to come. So the way it works here is not every district has an auto tech program. There's 14 districts here and only 5 have an auto tech program. And then our community college, Pikes Peak Community College, you can do concurrent enrollment from your high school. And so it's not as if I could pull from thousands of students, not that I would want to, because I couldn't manage that anyway. Sure. But 40 is a great number for us to work with. And so after that first automotive draft day, I mean, I was hooked. I walked away feeling so inspired. Like I was super excited. It was Riley's passion was cars. I actually relate really well to a lot of the GMs and the auto guys. Like it's kind of who I am. I mean, I
Feels
grew up,
natural, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of grew up with that mentality and mind. I don't know. It was not hard for me to relate to them. Most of them. It was great. I actually loved talking to them, getting to know them and build a relationship. And so the first one went really great. The second one went even better. We got more dealers, we got more students. Again, though, we still try to narrow it down to 40. We have more districts participating. I feel like we have buy-in from all of the districts with an auto program. Our third draft day, we just did it in the spring or in the fall, and we're doing another one in the spring. But going into that draft day, this is silly to say, and I'm sad to admit it, but I went into it saying, I've got to find the Reilly. I want to find a Reilly today. Like we're always placing students, right? And we make a lot of great matches. Well, I mean, we call them picks because it's a draft day. But I went into it and I thought, I really want to find a Reilly. There has to be a Reilly because I meet and talk with every single student that comes to our draft day. Like I have a very, I'm not going to say personal relationship, but I know them. I know a little
Yeah.
bit about them. I know a little bit about their background. I know kind of where they're coming from. And so I thought, I'm going to find a Reilly today. And sure enough, one of the students that I actually knew him when he was younger, he played soccer with one of my kids. And actually, we found kind of two Reillys that draft day. But I thought, this is my Reilly. I am going to find him a placement. And I share that with you because if we look for the Reillys, we will find them. They are there. And sometimes you're finding them and you don't even realize it.
Oh,
But
it's
they're
so
there.
true too. It really is. And I love how you said that as well, where you're looking for that Reilly. And when you say Reilly, I think everybody that's listening probably knows what you're talking about, right? That kid, like it's very, at least in my mind, very easy to kind of picture who not only Reilly was, but then also like when you're looking for those characteristics in a young person,
Right.
when you find them, it's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
obvious. I mean, you're like, this is, I'm gonna figure this out. We're gonna make a connection here. You're gonna get matched. You're gonna get picked. We're gonna make it happen. And you do. And so yeah, so that was really cool. I don't know what else to say about it. It was just so cool.
well,
And
it is cool.
eh,
I mean, it's so cool. And, as we talk about the purpose behind this, I don't know that you could have a greater purpose than you do with this, right? Because it is something where when you're just in you saying that, right? Like you're continuing that legacy, you're continuing to do good with everything that Reilly accomplished in his life. And I just, when you're looking for that Reilly, I almost feel like that in itself is something that will stick with me for forever. And that, looking for those Reillys that are out there and having that purpose and that heart to then say, I want you to have a good life. I want you to find opportunities that are going to be rewarding for your skill set and who you are and things that are going to make you happy in a way that Reilly was living his life. He wanted to carve his own path and he wanted to do his own thing. And I think it takes some level of determination and I don't want to say rebellion, but I like, as we're going through this, I think I had a lot of those same characteristics, right? Where it was, I didn't want to do the same thing that everybody else was doing. I didn't want to just kind of go that route. And so as you're looking for these other students that are going down that similar path, similar to what you said before, you're also giving them exposure to highly successful people that have gone through that similar path, right? Like so many of these successful people aren't the ones that did everything kind of between the lines. Like so many of them were folks that weren't afraid of risks, and even if they were afraid of risks, like maybe didn't talk about it in a way that others do. And so it just, I think that's so all encompassing when you say looking for that next Reilly, because there's so many good things that come along with that.
I agree. I agree. And I also think that when you can share the vision to find the Reilly with others, I have yet to have someone not want to. I
Right.
mean, it's so natural for our human nature, right, to find the Reillys. And so anytime I can get in front of someone in general and really share the heartfeltness of what we're trying to accomplish, I can't say that I've ever had anyone absolutely say no. I will get, oh, I don't know if I can do it this time, but I love what you're doing. And so, and then helping them navigate, how to implement it within their own organization kind of is a little bit tricky occasionally. But in general, it's our human nature to want to find the Reillys or to find that person that needs you. I mean, we all want to feel needed. And
Yeah.
who doesn't want to teach someone something you're passionate about? I mean, I love that. That's a great opportunity. If you're a master tech and you have an 18-year-old that can't wait to learn everything you've learned, oh my gosh, what a privilege.
I've said that so many times too, where you look at legacy as it relates in a shop, and a lot of times we'll have maybe a technician out there that's like, oh man, I don't want to be in the bays anymore. I'm kind of worn out, and
I'm beat
yeah, I
up.
totally get that. But like at the same time, you talk about that mentorship piece and how important that is for a young person. And I think it's equally as important for that more experienced person, because they can showcase some of what they've learned over the years. And if they have the right mindset, it has a lasting impact that will last beyond our years on earth, right? Like
Yeah.
I still have some of my mentors from growing up. I always talk about it, but a mentor of mine was Charlie Varco. I have his business card behind me. He probably died 10 years ago. And I, those people, I don't think a lot of times understand in the moment what type of impact they're having, especially on a young person. But it means the world. Like it really, really does. And the fact that you can take, and I'll kind of spin this around to your skill set and how it relates to everything here, is that I think the other important piece here is you had a dynamic skill set before any of this. And the fact that you've taken that and applied it in a way that helps out a young Reilly or helps out somebody else in Reilly's shoes, to help them kind of find their path and maybe find their path to a mentor, find their path to an apprenticeship. Like there's so much value in what you're doing, and that you were able to kind of reapply your skill set to something that is probably bigger than any of us, right? Like I think that's to me, when you look at your own legacy and what you're doing in honor of Reilly, like you're doing some things that you're pushing through and helping others out, that I think is what this is all about, right? Like that's what life is all about. That's what the cool things are all about. And the fact that you've pushed through this really, really difficult thing, the most difficult thing anybody could go through, to make this substantial impact on a lot of young people. All the credit in the world to you, because that is amazing.
Thank you. I mean, um, yeah, thank you. It has definitely it has taken me out of my comfort zone many times, but in a good way, just like you said, like in a good way. And I love people, but I'm also an introvert, which is weird because
I'm
I
kind of
like my
that way too.
space. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
love connecting with people and it's great. I just don't like being thrown into a big room and expected to like meet 50 different people and what like that. But something I've learned too is that in relation to how I think we're all innately meant to connect with people, right? And something that even going back to Reilly at Tire World and why he felt more purpose and worth and value in himself is that one reason people go back to a job, even if it's a crummy job, is because they've made a connection, right? Like And I think that our draft days, whether our industry partners hire someone or not, they're still making connections that they normally they would have not. They would have not been able to. Where can you go and in a 3-hour time frame meet 15 students that are auto tech students and talk to them, share your story, listen to their story, and connect. And oftentimes, I have partners that leave saying, "Thank you, Renee. Like, I really feel fulfilled." And if we can provide a platform for that, then that's a win in and of itself too, right? And I think that's something that, because of, just like you said, the future of work and what it looks like, because interfaces are different now, and we as human beings need to connect to people, and that's becoming harder and harder to do, I think.
It really is. Now, I have to apologize. We haven't spent a lot of time on the draft day itself, and I want to
That's okay.
maybe spend a few minutes and talk about that, because it is
Sure.
such a cool thing. Can you talk us through the nuts and bolts of draft day?
No pun intended. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
I love it. So our draft days are intended to connect industry partners with potential employees, whether it's as an apprenticeship, internship, or it's just a job, right? Automotive specifically, it's for auto technicians, students in CTE classes, or sometimes we have students that just show an aptitude for being, for, like, I can go recruit kids all day long from lube tech jobs and bring them in to our auto draft day, but we don't do it that way right now. But it's not to say that we won't expand into that. Right now, I simply go into the schools. I talk to students in the CTE auto classes, and I explain to them what opportunity we're trying to provide for them. And we sign them up. And after we sign them up, or register them, and after we register them, I go back to the classroom and I say, "Hey, do you have a resume? Who doesn't have a resume?" And then we help them with their resumes, right? And then the fun part for me is the interview prep. And that is where we do role playing, and I make them interview each other. Because in this day and age, there's not a lot of face-to-face interviews happening. And at our draft day, we do face-to-face interviews. Everyone will get at least 4 or 5 interviews. But I go into the classroom, we do interview prep, we do a little bit of professionalism training, meaning just because it's an auto shop doesn't mean you show up in Crocs and a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. Like,
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, it's working. But I ask them to dress nicely. Like, I don't expect you in a 3-piece suit, but dress to impress. That's our goal. If you want to make an impression, sometimes it's the initial outwardly appearance, right? And so I call it boot camp, but it's like we put them through boot camp before they come to our draft day. So at draft day, we still do another round of interview prep so that the day of, we can help calm their nerves, build their confidence. So before they even start their interviews with our industry partners, they do another round of interview prep where they're just doing a little more role playing. And then we share some questions that they might, be asked. And even we throw weird questions at them. Like, one of my favorite, I play tennis, so I always throw in, "Why is there fuzz on a tennis ball?" just to see how they, react. But I need to probably do something auto related. Like, I don't know, I'll think of something just totally goofy.
Before you go on, why is there fuzz on a tennis ball? I've never, ever thought about that. But now that you're saying that, I'm like, I don't know.
Exactly. But you should hear some of the cool answers we get. It's awesome. I'm like, that actually might be true. I've never heard that before, but I love it. But it's good. It just helps them think on their feet. And so after they do their interview prep, we break them up into groups, and then they get an opportunity. They share with us what industry partners they would like to interview with. They share their top 4. I usually give them their top 2 or 3, just because it depends on numbers and how the rotations work. And so they get to go through and they get 3 or 4 15-minute interviews with industry partners of their choice. And then it's like a 3-hour day. So it's a long day and they're worn out. The students are spent. It's actually awesome because they're very composed and it's mentally taxing for them. And so at the end they leave, they go back to school. And then I talk to our industry partners and I say, "Hey, I need you to share with me the top 3 students you would like to draft for your organization." And so they share their top 3, sometimes 4. And then I get the same information from the students, and then I draft them. So I go back, load it in my spreadsheet, match everybody up. And then I share with our industry partners. I say, "Hey, these are your top 2 draft picks. Reach out to them, offer them whatever it is. I know what they're going to offer, but sometimes it's an internship, apprenticeship, job, whatever it might be. So they reach out, I reach out to the student and say, hey, if you get a phone call from Phil Long, you need to answer it. Don't just send it to your voicemail. Or if you get a text or whatever, I'm like, make sure you answer your phone or respond or whatever. But again, that's also another level of almost kind of refining a student and how serious they are, because if they don't respond, they just go on to their next pick. And that's just the way it goes. And so after that, we matched them all up. And then this is the first year we had a signing day, which was so exciting for me.
So cool.
It was. So I think I mentioned to you how excited I was and happy I was. I was like floating on cloud 9 after our last draft day. Signing day put me like in the heavens, because first we'd been building up to it for the last year and a half, like trying to figure out when to do it, how to do it. It's always been a thought that I had to do to celebrate the kids, just like D1 commits get celebrated at high school, right? I had my own signing day in high school, and I just remember it being so cool and such a great feeling. And these students deserve the same thing, right? So we finally had our first signing day. It was amazing. It was, I mean, if there could be a can of cherries on top, that's what it was. It was so rewarding, so fulfilling. And Mike Davis, who I think you know, he pulled one of my work-based learning counterparts aside and said, it has finally come full circle. And I think what he means by that is we had education, we had industry, and we had community all in the same place for the same reason, celebrating these students that deserve it. They deserve it. They need to be recognized. It was just, and I had a few parents come up to me and say, why aren't more people doing this? This is amazing. I'm like, thank you so much for supporting me. And it was just, and for me, it came when I had a couple moms come up to me and say, you have changed my son's life. It makes it all worth it. And beyond.
You're finding those Reillys, and yeah. It really is. You look at those parents, and a lot of whom probably had some experiences like you have, and right. Just being able to show that young person how special they are and that they have a hugely bright future ahead of them. And just to get the attention, when it's the draft day or the signing day that yeah. Maybe they're not accustomed to, they're not used to that. And it's just, I think any parent sees their kid and when they have that light shined on them, right? Whether they're, right. you take that so much to heart, and what you're doing is giving somebody something to be very, very proud of. And I just think, what a cool thing, right? Like an awesome thing. And again, I just give you all the credit in the world for everything that you're doing. And I hope to see this continue to grow and to really have the word spread more and more for those that might be interested in helping out or wanting to get more information about everything that you're doing. What's the best avenue for them to do that?
It would definitely be to go to our website, which is jumpstart-fun.org. And we just have a form that says it's basically, how can I get involved? And if you fill that out and share it with me, I will get right back to you, because having supportive partners, that I can't do what I'm doing without partnerships, right? At some point, I want to be able to have an answer to every student that comes up to me and asks for a job. Like, I think I may have mentioned it, but I've had students say, I want to be an elevator mechanic. And I'm like, crud, I don't have anyone that offers jobs in that industry. I got to find one. Partnerships are the only way I can do what I do. So,
and great people like the Phil Long Group, and so many others in Colorado. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So many great ones out there supporting what is truly an incredible mission. I'm just so happy to have been able to meet you and look forward to following this progress along. I know for me, this was probably one of the more emotional podcasts. It's funny because I think normally things come very easy for me in terms of coming up with questions and that kind of thing. And this one was definitely harder, but more so a few different reasons because of it. Is just because of the impact it's having, and it just, it touched me. I mean, it really, really did. This is incredible work that you're doing in honor of Reilly. And I hope word just keeps spreading and it just keeps getting more and more successful. It's just what an honor to Reilly, to everything that you're doing. And for you to come on and talk about it, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Again, I can't express how I truly heartfelt thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My last question for you is, sure. Your photos on the site are great. I was looking through the, I don't know if you take them or I was going through the ones on the Auto Draft Day recap and just the joy in the kids' faces and it really, really good photography. And then the Reilly's photo, I believe with is that with the Senna jacket on? And
that's actually a Schumacher jacket.
It is. Okay.
So Schumacher was right there behind Senna. I mean, if Senna had been able to live longer and race longer, I think he would have been like, a dream for him. Die hard. So it was a close race between Schumacher and Senna for him. But the Ferrari in that picture is our friend who sells pivot doors. Let us borrow it for his senior pictures.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a cool picture.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well.
And the other pictures, just FYI, we had a student come and take those pictures and we paid him as an intern to come and do pictures that day. So
very talented there as well. Those pictures are top notch. So lastly, just thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing work. And we'll try to help spread the word however we can.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you like this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team. WrenchWay is dedicated to promoting and improving careers in the automotive, diesel, and collision industries. In partnership with ASE, we run the ASE Connects community, which empowers shops and dealerships with reliable data, school connections, and industry insights while helping grow the future technician workforce. You can learn more by visiting WrenchWay.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.